Commander 4339, tower. UPS 1269, continue standing by. We just had aircraft run up into the EMAS.
On September 24th, 2025, at 21:17 Eastern Daylight Time, commuter flight 4339, an Embraer EMB 145XR, November 21129er, experienced the runway excursion while landing at Roanoke Blacksburg Regional Airport. The airplane overran the end of runway 34 and came to rest in the Engineered Materials Arresting System, or the EMAS. There were no injuries to the 3 crew and 50 passengers on board, and there was no damage to the airplane. The scheduled domestic passenger flight was operating under the provisions of Title 14 Code of Federal Regulations Part 121 from Washington Dulles International Airport to Roanoke. According to the flight crew, this was the second leg of day 4 of a 4-day rotation and the first leg on the incident airplane. Prior to departure, the airplane had to be deplaned twice for maintenance-related anomalies. After boarding for the 3rd time, the flight crew reviewed the weather and briefed the thunderstorms approaching Roanoke. The airplane pushed back approximately 2.5 hours after the scheduled departure time. En route, the flight crew reviewed the Automatic Terminal Information Services, or the ATIS, weather information for Roanoke. The ATIS reported calm winds, no precipitation, a cloud ceiling of 15,000 feet, and that runway 6 was in use. The captain, pilot flying, briefed the localizer approach to runway 6. The first officer, the pilot monitoring, suggested reviewing the landing performance details for a wet runway or a runway condition code of 5. But the captain declined due to the ATIS not reporting precipitation. During descent, the flight crew checked in with approach control and was informed of precipitation along the approach path to runway 6 and that other aircraft were using runway 34 for landing. The captain requested the first officer set up for the Instrument Landing System, or the ILS, approach to runway 34 and to brief the approach. The first officer set up the ILS runway 34 approach, briefed the approach changes, and monitored the weather radar. After turning on final approach, the flight crew observed the runway and heard the previous landing aircraft report marginal visibility and bumpy conditions.
Commander 4339, ILS runway 34.
Commander 4339, Roanoke Tower, wind 250 at 9er, runway 34, clear to land. Area of heavy to extreme precipitation begins about 4 mile final all the way down to the runway.
Clear to land, runway 34, Roger, Commander 4339.
Pima 5834, how are flight conditions on final?
Smooth, but pretty marginal visibility, short final.
Commander 4339, did you copy that?
Hey, Roanoke, Commander 4339, thanks.
During the approach, the rain intensity increased, and the captain requested that the first officer run the performance calculations for landing on a wet runway with a runway condition code of 5. The first officer ran the performance calculations and determined that they would have a margin of approximately 200 feet more than was required without thrust reverser usage. The captain briefed the go-around procedures and that they would divert to Piedmont-Triad International Airport, Greensboro, North Carolina, if they executed a go-around. On short final, the rain intensity increased, and the captain requested windshield wipers at high. As the airplane descended below 500 feet, the first officer observed that they were high on the Precision Approach Path Indicator, the PAPI, and then observed the captain correcting the flight path, but recalled they were still high as the airplane crossed the threshold. After crossing the runway markings, the first officer called for a go-around, but the captain continued. About halfway down the runway, the first officer called for a go-around for a second time, but the captain continued. The airplane touched down and the flight crew applied maximum braking and deployed the engine thrust reversers. The airplane overran the end of runway and came to rest in the EMAS. The first officer attempted to communicate with air traffic control, but the communications button had disengaged.
Commander 4339, tower. UPS 1269, continue standing by. We just had aircraft run up into the EMAS.
Ground, Pickle 9.
Vehicle 9, Roanoke, ground.
Yes, ma'am. Understand there's an aircraft in the EMAS. Is that correct?
Affirmative, alert 3.
Copy all. The aerodrome is closed. NOTAM cancel it, or NOTAM will be issued shortly.
Affirmative.
And I'm on the air carrier. I'm going to proceed down to 3-4 there at the EMAS.
After engaging the communications button, the first officer coordinated with ATC and contacted the flight attendant.
Commuter 4339, Roanoke.
Commuter 4339, go ahead.
Commuter 4339, are you guys off the end into the EMAS?
Hey, Commuter 4339.
Roger, trucks are rolling now.
Thank you.
Commuter 4339, when able, stay souls on board.
53 souls aboard, Commuter 4339.
Any injuries?
The flight attendant verified that there were no injuries.
Negative injuries, Commuter 4339.
Commuter 4339, Roger.
The flight crew completed the emergency evacuation checklist and prepared for an evacuation. Airport Rescue Firefighting, or the ARF, personnel boarded the airplane and assisted with evacuating the passengers down a ladder.
And Vehicle 9, from what I understand, no hazardous material on board and no injuries reported.
Copy all. That's good to hear. And yeah, looks like the EMAS worked as advertised. Just before we got to the ILS.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
In cases where airports don't have enough available land for the recommended safety area, one solution is an engineered materials arresting system at the end of the runway. If an aircraft were to overrun the runway, the tires would sink into the crushable lightweight material, causing the aircraft to slow down and safely come to a stop. EMAS is installed at more than 70 airports and has safely stopped more than 20 overrunning aircraft, carrying hundreds of passengers and crew aboard those flights.